Americans will now have broadcast television from local stations at work, at play, and on the way. Coming to local stations in top markets, live in local news, sports, weather, and traffic, plus your favorite television shows. Mobile digital television. Never miss a minute.
Arthur Greenwald TV Newsday at the Consumer Electronics Show, there was some mention made of wondering what the role of the carriers would be in either supporting or standing in the way of the rollout of the cellular devices, the handheld devices. Since most handheld devices are distributed as they deal with one cell phone carrier, do you anticipate that they will in any way stand in the way because they'll be trying to find a way to make revenue from this system? And I have a second question.
Well, who do you think? Colleen, do you want to take that? You know, you're talking about revenue from stations, but also specifically, Dave, we have, you know, AT&T, you know, attached to certain people's cell phones. Are they going to want some money? Colleen, you start.
Well, I'm not real clear on business model as yet. We're still developing a business model, not within the OMVC. This would be outside of that. So in identifying, you know, how the next steps evolve, I think we're still working toward that. I also think that the choices and the signals with the different vendors and the different distributors are still absolutely under discussion. But what's exciting about it is I think everyone sees this as an extension of broadcast. It gets into, it fills a need that has not been filled over the 50 years of broadcasting. That truly is the last mile. Okay.
You know, Brandon used the word ecosystem. I think that's a good way to describe all this. I mean, what we have with broadcasting is we already have an already funded distribution system for this video delivery system. So that CapEx has already happened. So for all of the potential partners in the ecosystem, that's an opportunity for everybody to take advantage of. I think as Brandon has said from the very beginning, this is all intended to be a value add for all participants. So yes, the business modeling is all yet to take place, but there's a lot of opportunity potentially for everybody in this environment.
I think it's important to note also that cell phones will be an important distribution channel. But you've got netbooks and you've got in-car devices, you've got DVD players with receivers built into it. So it's not, that isn't the only thing. The conversations that have been had with the carriers, you know, it's a very complementary system. It doesn't have to be, it's not a hostile thing in any way. I think it's an opportunity for the carrier and for the broadcasters.
I'm wondering though, does it get hostile, guys, when Sprint, for example, comes out with 4G, which the quality is going to be super sparkling, and it goes on your laptop, and you can get live on your laptop, for example. So, Jim, I mean, what do you think about something like that?
The economics for unicast delivery, so over a mobile broadband network of video delivery, are relatively poor. Even as the speeds increase and throughput increases, there's always going to be room for the one-to-many delivery mechanism of broadcast. And live broadcast and long-tail content delivered over the internet complement each other very well. So we see them coexisting and not conflicting with each other.
I agree. That's exactly the right answer. They're complementary. A 4G network is a many-to-many medium, and broadcasting is fantastic for mass communications to a large audience at once. One thing that some people lose sight of is when the ATSC mobile television does not use the carrier's network, it uses the broadcaster's spectrum and the broadcaster's network. And so it allows the carrier to not have his network be burdened by broadcast content that uses up a lot of bandwidth to reach a large audience. So it's a win for the carrier.
Exactly. TV didn't kill radio, right? I mean, there might be an opportunity for everybody to exist here. Questions, Steph?
Just a separate question. I understand, of course, how the local stations and presumably some of their network programming get transmitted locally, but what is the business model you envision for Liz's broadcasts or programs from Fox Business News and other cable channels to make it onto the handheld device?
Well, let me take that one. What research shows is that consumers like diversity when it comes to content. They want their big network content, they want cable network content, they want local content. And the opportunity is for the cable channels that don't have spectrum themselves to basically utilize and hop onto the broadcast infrastructure, much like is happening right here in Las Vegas. The cable services that you see, like Fox News, like CNBC, are essentially riding on over the airwaves operated by the broadcasters. So there's a very sort of a symbiotic relationship that could emerge. And yes, we'll have to figure out how it gets monetized and who gets how much of the pie in terms of compensation, but the feasibility is actually very synergistic.
We have a lot of station owners out here, and I was asking yesterday, what is the cost if you're WEWS in Cleveland or WHDH in Boston, SVN in Miami? Is it 50 grand? Is it 150 grand? Colleen, you are one of the smallest publicly traded station groups. What's the cost that you're finding?
Well, it depends on your infrastructure, and each station will have to identify what their infrastructure is built out at, but it is between 50 and 150,000, depending on your structure.
And you're okay with putting that type of money out at a time?
I think that's very de minimis for the potential.
Really?
Yes.
The audience potential to move the needle?
Audience
I know we have Nielsen people here, and TiVo made a big announcement about judging exactly tick by tick, second by second, what the audience is. So at this point, you could use it for advertising.
Well, I do believe that audience potential is an element here, but I also believe that the market is moving to mobile. There's a segment of the population out there that is totally becoming accustomed to grabbing off their, whether or not it's their cell phone or their laptop or whatever, and we have to compete in that space. We can't disenfranchise that audience.
Absolutely. Teenagers, big spenders. Okay. Question?
Yes, Gerard Halloran from JRPG Investment Research. I have two questions. One for Liz Claman about the financial markets, and one for LG and Samsung.
Buy low, sell high.
Liz?
Yes.
My question for you is, the ROIs on this stuff seem very, very high to me, with a de minimis capital outlay, maybe $250,000. You said 50 to 150.
Yep.
You could put a local broadcaster into business. Yet the money's not being spent. Do you think it's a financial market holdup providing funding to this industry just because there's a perception that this is a slow, mature industry that hasn't gotten a break since 1952 when the color standards were set?
Well, I think that's a great question, and I would say that, look who we have up here. We have Dave Lougee and we have Colleen Brown, two station group owners, and to be a visionary is tough enough. But to be a visionary in tough economic times is a very difficult trick to pull off. So I think that absolutely plays into it. But if you look at the list of station group owners, Meredith, Sunbeam, Scripps Howard, who are part of the OMVC, obviously that's their first sort of breach, they're toe dipped into this water where they very much want to look at it. Look, any good business person is going to look at something and say, I'm not going to be the first nor the last to jump onto a new type of technology. So I think that money is absolutely an issue. And at this point, you look at every single line item. I mean, I know it at Fox and at News Corp we do that. That's just how smart business people operate. When the Writers Guild strike happened, Fox Business was just launching. I mean, we were so new, nobody had chairs to sit on. Does anybody have a pen? So we went to go order stuff and they said, no, freeze until the writer's strike is over. Yeah, but we don't have anything to do with it, too bad. It's part of our whole company. So I think that smart business people are cautiously delving into this, but to have the visionaries up here on stage, these are the ones who will always be able to say, including NBC and Fox, we jumped on this first. So I think that the markets are going to be very tough for at least another year, definitely. And your second question?
My second question relates to the cellular carriers. If I look at this situation, the cellular carriers are offering a very high-priced product with very uneven coverage, even within the zones that they cover. Yet you guys have the ability to provide advertiser content for free to the consumer. All they have to do is provide the device. What will it take to get the cellular guys to abandon this high-priced model and go with the free-to-air model? If you look around the world, tens of millions of one-seg devices have been sold. Yet every other market, save 3 Italia and their proprietary pornography, has sold devices in the thousands. And that's that's an order of magnitude difference. What's it going to take to get the cellular carriers on board with you and realize that they're throwing money against the wall foolishly?
Is that a Brandon question or is that a Rast question? Is that Samsung or is that a big picture? Well, why don't you take it first?
It's for both of them. They both make handsets.
It's for both companies. They both make handsets. They have to know their cellular customers. What do your customers say to you when you propose to them that they offer free-to-air?
Let's start with LG then. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, I think we believe that in the early days, the larger wireless carriers won't be leaders in this because they've got, as you mentioned, they've got an existing business model they're pursuing which may not be optimized. And we think broadcasters need to demonstrate that there are better alternatives and that the day will come when it's compelling and it's really clear that this is the way it has to go. And we think the wireless carriers will line up and join in. But that being said, there's an array of wireless carriers, and so we think the answer is different depending on who you talk to. And we think there are other smaller wireless carriers that see this as a marketing opportunity and see this as an opportunity to expand their service. And we expect those carriers to come in sooner than the larger carriers. John?
I agree, and what I would add is, well, first, the Korean market, in addition to the Japanese market, has seen huge growth in mobile TV handsets, so that's two good examples. And also I would add that this is, again, like when we were talking about 4G, this isn't necessarily an either or. This technology can coexist with what the carriers are offering, and perhaps one takes the role as a kind of a subscription service that they have now, offering certain kinds of content, and then they can bring in local broadcaster content using the ATSC mobile standard. So one possible future is coexistence even on the same devices.